how then would you describe, whether it's through a matrix analysis of giving them an out of 10 or basically a sentimental, reaction, how would you describe the last 3 years of the UPND?
This is the greatest deception I've ever seen in this country. People who deceived the Zambian people that they were going to give them a government that is decent, that is efficient, that is effective, that is orderly. And it has turned out to be the opposite. They are corrupt, they are inept, they are ineffective, they are disorderly. They came pretending they were these angels, when they are nothing but, to borrow from Mr. Kainde, hyenas. This is a government of hyenas on the bones. When you try to get nearer, they bite, they kill. That Mr. Kainde Hichilema is not capable of leading a just and effective and efficient fight against corruption, because he's highly, highly conflicted. He's in the midst of this corruption himself. The day Mr. Hichilema will declare his assets, that will be the beginning of his walk to prison.
The question is, should it be about the president in power or the system and the laws?
The corruption centers around him.
As an individual?
Yes.
Isn't it systems that guide?
No, this corruption centers around him. He's highly, highly conflicted. That's why he can't even declare his assets. He can't. He's caught in a catch-22. If he declares, it's a problem. He doesn't declare, you have these arguments we are making against him.
But he's declared his assets based on the electoral rules.
Wait.
And that, again, I had John Sangwa here last week. The law does not mandate a sitting president to declare their assets, except at the time when they are filing those nominations.
Whether the law requires him to declare or not to declare, if it's not, he has not declared, it shows you where the problems are. There's so much inside dealing by himself.
If you come here and say he's leading the most corrupt regime in Zambia's history, that he himself is conflicted and at the center of corruption.
Yes, but 9 ministers being investigated. Where have you ever heard 9 ministers being investigated? And they can't even tell you who those 9 ministers are. And none of them has been suspended or fired. How? Where?
The presumption of innocence. They're being investigated. They have not been...
When you're investigated, you have this... Is it how much millions for the Kenyan deal with the army? With the army. Have you heard anybody being suspended from the army?
The fact that they're being investigated shows that there's commitment to doing the right thing, isn't it?
How many investigations against his own people have come up with corruption charges? Even the fertilizer deal you are talking about, who has been arrested? He can't arrest anybody on that fertilizer deal because he was part of it.
But again, I'm asking, why, if these things are not reported, how then will we see a conclusion?
We have been saying these things for the last 3 years, almost 3 years. What has he done about it? I've been saying this, I've written about it, I've said it here. Has he come to arrest me? As he does. Let him come and arrest me for accusing him of corruption. You can ask me to put evidence here. We have heard that story before. That story has been running for years. Bring the evidence, bring the evidence. Every regime did that. Those who are saying bring the evidence, they are in jail today. Some of them, they were saying bring the evidence of corruption. They are in jail today. These can also say bring the evidence. They will be in jail also next time by others. Again, I'm putting it here. Mr. Hichilema is leading, or is at the helm of the most corrupt regime in the history of our country.
You're accusing the president of being corrupt?
Yes, I'm accusing him.
Again, I've challenged you this when you came here last time. You said he's giving contracts to his friends in fertilizer. Why haven't you reported him? Where are the facts?
We did that. It was publicized. We have never held our views.
Did you take these facts to the
How many
Anti-Corruption
people have taken things to the anti-corruption? Kamba, you are telling me a story of a director of the Anti-Corruption Commission is saying this Attorney General is corrupt. Has he been prosecuted? What happened in return? Kamba himself is dissolved. He is no longer a director. The Attorney General he was accusing is still a director. And they arrange for some meeting somewhere and reconcile that they are relatives. Without telling you that I lied or I was wrong, he has not repudiated anything that he said.
in terms of the graft fight?
Who is being tried in those fast track courts? Who? It's all his political opponents from the PF. There is no UPND member or official, government official of this government who has gone there, or any other person. Those were kangaroo courts created to just prosecute a certain group of people. You don't do that.
And you believe that our judiciary is not autonomous enough to fall into that?
It's not.
For you to accuse them of holding kangaroo?
It's not, yes. How were those courts set up? Where did the pronouncement come from? Didn't it come from Akainde himself first? Those courts were created by Akainde, not by the Chief Justice, strictly speaking. They simply implemented his decision. And they were created to prosecute or persecute PF people. Nobody else, show me anybody else other than...
And you are alleging that the learned and competent members of our judiciary could allow to be used to operate kangaroo courts?
Yes, they're operating a kangaroo court. Who else are they trying in that court? Other than one group of politicians from PF. Who else outside the PF leadership is in those courts?
So,
tell me any other person you know other than from the PF leadership who is in those...
Whether PF or UNIP, if people did wrong things, the law must take its course.
Yeah. Are you telling me over the last 3 years there is no corruption from UPND? Are you telling me this government is corruption free? Nobody should be taken to those courts. We are living in the most decent, under the most decent regime. These are angels. None of them is corrupt.
They've admitted.
They will only become corrupt after they leave office.
But finally,
these are angels. There's no corruption in this country anymore.
Well,
the corruption ended with the PF. Over the last 3 years, can you tell a Zambian that there's no corruption in this country? Yeah. Show me one case that has gone to those courts that I'm calling kangaroo courts. At the rate they are going, they will kill. The level of greedy is too high. It's too high. I've never seen this greedy. Everything they want to take. Everything they want to have a cut in for themselves. Zambians are not fools. They are seeing all this. The sad part of not having independent institutions is you wait until those who are running government get out. Is when one group comes to sort out these others. If we had independent investigative institutions, this wouldn't be there.